My sister won't walk, and I just saw what's been crawling with her at night. My little sister Zola is almost 2, and she still won't walk. Everyone thinks it's a developmental delay. I know it's because she has a teacher. For the past month, my mom Alina has been hauling Zola to these holistic child wellness workshops. This is all because my Aunt Idalia keeps calling, filling mom's head with new age bullshit about Zola being untethered from her corporeal anchor or some crap. Mom knows it's a long shot, but she's desperate, and I can see the hope wearing thinner on her face every day. The thing is, Zola is sharp, scary sharp. I can show her a book, and she'll tap the right animal every time. Gay Wrath, she'll say, her little finger poking the page. Zebra. She's smart, she's happy, she has the grip strength of a tiny marine. But she will not stand up. Not for a favorite toy, not for mom's outstretched arms, not for anything. She just sits there, smiling, perfectly content on the floor. Mom started trying to get her to stand when she was just over a year old. Hours spent on the living room rug, kneeling in front of her, cheering her on. Zola would just giggle and go back to chewing on whatever block was in her hand. Then came the doctors, the specialists, the child development programs. Nothing worked. So now, it's breathing exercises and energy alignment with a bunch of other spiritually constipated parents. Last Saturday, I watched Mom carry Zola to the car. The dark circles under her eyes were like bruises. She looked like she was one more session of mindful breathing away from just screaming. I was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through my phone. When it rang, it was Mom. Kaylin, can you check Zola's window? The sky looks awful. I grunted an okay and heaved myself off the couch. Outside, the clouds were a sick, bruised purple. Zola's room is upstairs, right across the hall from mine. I tossed my phone onto my bed, not really looking where it landed, and went into her nursery. The windows were wide open, letting in a damp, heavy breeze that smelled like wet asphalt. I slid them shut, the latches clicking loudly in the quiet room. I was about to leave when my foot snagged on a stuffed alligator. I looked down to kick it out of the way, and that's when I saw them. Faint, greasy stains on the hardwood floor. A dark, rust-colored smear. You wouldn't notice it if you weren't looking, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. It wasn't a spill. It looked like something heavy and wet had been dragged, over and over, in a perfect, obsessive circle around the center of the room. My first thought was that Zola had crawled through something, but the track was too uniform, too perfect. And Mom is meticulous. She wouldn't let Zola play in filth. I decided I'd tell Mom when she got back. As I turned to leave the room, a loud crack echoed from across the hall. I froze, every muscle in my body seizing up. The sound came from my room, my phone. It was lying on the floor, screen down, but I threw it on my bed. I know I did. I saw it bounce on the comforter. There's no way it could have just fallen off. Not like that. The hallway suddenly felt longer, the ceiling higher. I snatched my phone off the floor and shoved it in my pocket, my mind racing. Downstairs, I heard the front door open and Mom yelling that she was back. The first drops of rain started to hit the window panes. The weird circle on the floor, the phone, I shoved it all down and ran to get Mom an umbrella before she got soaked. She was so pissed off about the workshop that I forgot to mention any of it. I only remembered that evening. I was on the floor in the living room, building a tower of blocks, and Zola was playing beside me. She had this little princess doll, one with bright yellow yarn hair. She was making it fly through the air, but then she just stopped. Her expression went blank for a second. Then she gently lowered the doll to the carpet. I watched her, a weird feeling starting to crawl up my spine. She put the doll on its stomach. Then, with intense concentration, she started dragging it across the floor. The doll's little arms and legs flopped uselessly behind it. It moved just like her. Like me, Zola whispered to the doll. Then her voice got rhythmic, low. 1, slide. 2, slide. Good. Zola, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Why is the princess crawling? She looked up at me, her big blue eyes wide. 1, 2, slide. Good, she repeated, like I was an idiot. But she has feet, I said, pointing. I reached over and picked up the doll, its yarn hair now full of carpet fuzz. I stood it up on my knee. See, she can stand. I made it take a few clumsy steps across my leg. And she can walk. No. Her face crumpled. The scream that came out of her was pure rage. No like me. Before I could react, she lunged forward and snatched the doll out of my hand. She held it in her two tiny fists and, with a horrible plastic creaking sound, bent its legs backward at the knee until they snapped. Then she threw the broken doll on the floor and burst into tears. Mom came running in. She scooped Zola up, glaring at me over her wailing head. "The hell did you do?" "Nothing. Mom, there are these weird stains on her floor, this greasy circle. I think it's from her dragging her toys around like that." Mom's face was a mask of pure exhaustion. "I'll clean it," she said, bouncing a sobbing Zola in her arms. "Just finish your homework, Kaylin, please." There was no arguing with her. Later that night, after dinner, Zola was playing on the rug again. The broken princess was there, along with a stuffed frog and a little teddy bear. She had all three of them lined up, on their stomachs, and as she dragged them one by one across the carpet, she whispered her chant. 1, slide. 2, slide. 3, good. It wasn't a game. It was a lesson. A few nights later, I woke up around 3 in the morning, my throat completely dry. I stumbled out of my room to go get some water. As I stepped into the hall, I saw it. Zola's door was open a crack, and I could hear voices. A tiny whisper, Zola's voice. And another one, a low, wet gurgle that sounded like it was being scraped out of a throat full of mud. "It's Mom," I told myself. "It has to be Mom." But I knew it wasn't. Mom wouldn't be in there, whispering in the dark. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. I took one step, then another, my bare feet silent on the wooden floor. The whispering continued, a steady rhythmic cadence. I reached the door and peered through the crack. Zola was on the floor, on her hands and knees, in the middle of that faint, dark circle. And next to her was something else. It was big, hunched over so its head almost touched the floor. Its skin was the color of spoiled milk, and its limbs were too long, bent at angles that made my stomach churn. Damp, stringy black hair hung down, hiding its face completely. Together, they moved. Zola and the thing. They slid their left hands forward along the floor. Then they pulled their bodies forward. 1, slide. "Buh!" the thing gurgled. The sound was thick, suffocating. They slid their right hands forward. 2, slide. Its voice was a wet horror, and I saw the truth. I saw why Zola only crawled. I saw what was making that perfect, greasy circle on her floor. The thing that was teaching my sister how to move has never had feet. At the end of its legs were nothing but raw, flattened stumps that left a wet, dark smear on the wood every time it dragged itself forward.